Hello, Professor Rito Bagi. My name is Ayman Abdurrahman. Today, alongside with my teammates, Fan Ding and Greg Grace, we will be presenting HLOC's strategy for mitigating supplier compliance risks. HLOC is facing in about 39% supplier compliance failure rate, and we will walk you through our data-driven hybrid solution to address it. At the first, we began by acknowledging that Seneca's campuses are located in the traditional lands around Ontario. We encourage everyone to reflect on whose ancestral lands you are joining us from today. Our teams and section, how we divided this presentation on each member of us. So myself, I'll be representing the first question, second, and the sixth question. Fan will be taking care of question 3, 4, and 7, while Greg will be presenting question 5 and question 8. The first question, which is about the supplier compliance risks. On this question, I will be covering define supplier compliance risk in plain terms. So the supplier compliance risk is simply the risks that our supplier failed to meet the legal, quality, or ethical standard were required. For HLOC, this means supplier not following organic standards or using non-organic materials. So why it's critical in the organic edible oil industry? This is critical in the organic edible oil industry because trust is everything. Consumers buy our products expecting purity, and one failure can destroy that trust. So how non-compliance affects HLOC's operation and reputation? While non-compliance happens, it hits us in two ways: operationally through distributions, delays, and penalties, and reputationally through loss of consumers' trust and navigate publicity. The number is alarming. About 39% of HLOC's suppliers currently show compliance failures. That's why it's priority. Question 2, we'll be talking about the data-driven decision-making and predictive modeling. So how HLOCs use data-driven decision-making for compliance risk. To address this, HLOC is using data-driven approach. Dr. Sampat gathered supplier data and identified 7 key risk factors, things like quality control, communication, and risk management. So the role to predictive model plays in improving decision quality. The predictive model is like logistic regressions use this data to forecast which supplier are likely to fail compliance. It achieved about 93% accuracy on training data and 92% on test data, proving these risks are predictable. So this improves decision quality in 2 ways. It let us be proactive, catching problems early instead of reaching second, instead of reacting. Second, it helps us focus resources on the highest risk supplier. It's about moving from guesswork to evidence-based decision. So for the question number 6, model bias and lack of generalizability. We will cover 3 three main questions, which is what model bias and lack of generalizability mean. So, however, models have limitations. Model bias means the model predictions can be skewed and if the training data isn't representative. For example, if it's mostly includes large supplier, it may misjudge smaller ones. Lack of generalizability means the model may fail when applied to new supplier of different markets. So what's the risks these create for decision making? These risks are clear. We might reject good supplier or approve risky one. If HLOC expands to new regions with different regulation, the model reliability drops significantly. So what's the impact when applied to a new supplier or different market conditions? To manage this, we need to continuous testing, recalibration, and human oversight, which is exactly why we are recommend the hybrid approach. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Fan Lin, and I'll be covering question 3, 4, and 7. Starting with question 3, as a supply chain manager at HLOC, my goal would be to stop compliance problems before they happen, and I'd focus on 4 areas. First, supplier vetting. The case says vetting was inconsistent, so I'd screen suppliers properly up front, check their certification, quality records, and inventory policy before we bring them on. Second, monitoring. I'd run regular audits on incoming materials and use the prediction model to flag risky supplies early before a bad batch reaches production. Third, communication. This was actually the first problem the consultant found. So I'd give every supplier clear guidelines and regular check-ins, because when suppliers understand the rules, they are far more likely to follow them. And first, risk management. Backup supplies, some safety stock, and training for both our team and our suppliers. So compliance becomes routine. Together, these 4 help HLOC catch risk early and protect its reputation. Question 4 is about the old way of deciding versus the data-driven way. The old way relied on gut feeling and experience. Managers waited until a supply caused a problem, then dealt with it after the fact. The issue is you are always one step behind. Data analysts flip that. Instead of reacting, HLOC can predict which supplies are likely to fail. The consultant's logistic regulation model was right about 93% of the time on the training data and 92% on the test data. Test data were more reliable than guessing. So the big advantage is being proactive instead of reactive, spotting risky supplies early and deciding based on real evidence. In the organic OE business, where one slip can hurt your reputation, that's huge. Finally, question 7, how HLOC builds this into a decision support system in 5 steps. 1. Gather data, historical records, supply databases, regulations, and transport data all in one place. 2. Clear and organize it. Run ETL and store it in a central data warehouse so the models working with good data. 3. Plug in the model, connect the logistic regulation model. This is the brain that flags which supplies are most likely to fail. 4. Make it easy to use. A simple dashboard with a traffic light view so Even non-technical managers can read it at a glance. And 5, keep it updating. Refresh it with new data and review it regularly as the market changes. Do that, the model becomes a living tool to the whole team used to stay ahead of compliance problems. So that covers my 3 questions. I'll now hand it over to Greg.
Hi, my name is Greg. I'll be talking about question 5. So when integrating the predictive model into HLOC's daily operations, there are 3 main challenges. First is employee resistance. Employees may prefer existing decision-making methods and hesitate to trust the model. To address this, HLOC should provide training and clearly communicate the benefits of the new system. Second is integration with existing processes. Implementing the model may require workflow changes and can be costly. Starting with a centralized system alongside the current processes allows HLOC to transition gradually with minimal disruption. Finally, the model depends on accurate supplier data. If suppliers don't consistently provide quality data, the model's predictions become less reliable. Improving communication and conducting regular supplier reviews can help maintain data quality. Overall, the 2 priorities for HLOC are training employees and continuously monitoring both model performance and supplier data. Question 8 is about the case difficulty cube. Using the case difficulty cube, we rated this case as medium difficulty with a score 6 out of 9. For the analytical dimension, which gave a 2nd degree, the problem is clear: supplier compliance failures. But the case doesn't explicitly state how HLOC should implement the predictive model. For the conceptual dimension, the logistics regression model and supply chain concepts require some business and analytics knowledge, but they're still manageable because the case explains the results. Finally, for the presentation dimension, the case provides a lot of information. While it's thorough, some details, such as extensive statistical outputs and company background, aren't necessary for making the main decision. And that's everything for our presentation. Thank you for listening.